T minus 50 seconds. T minus 40 seconds. T minus 30 seconds. T minus 20 seconds. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0.
Own it, own it, own it, Kong. I own it. It did.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.
What's up, y'all? Sorry for the late start. You know, sometimes life happens, but we are here. It's Friday. Wow, I can't even believe that's the thing. It's Friday, and there's still news. There's a lot of things popping, and I am not alone. Mr. Bonner is in the building. How are you doing?
I am great. Is it? Oh no, I almost thought it was Friday the 13th. No, tomorrow's the 13th. So that's good. I had to be careful about that. But no, I'm great. It's Friday. We've made it through the end of another full wrestling week. How are you, TK?
I am good. You know, I can't complain. It's a good day. A lot of stuff kind of fell right before the show started.
Boom.
Good things. You know, we'll see what happens. Thus is life, which I feel my parents didn't really articulate all the nuances.
Yes.
of those things. But you know, here we are. So what do you have for us?
Oh boy, there's all kinds of things going on. So when I first ran across this story, my heart kind of dropped, though we probably saw this coming. So of course, last year, really the world was excited, especially Black Twitter and the Black wrestling fans, about the Hurt Business. The Hurt Business was such a massive thing. You had, of course, Bobby Lashley, Cedric Alexander, Shelton Benjamin, MVP. We had this one point where they were all dripped in gold. It was amazing. Then, of course, Bobby Lashley wins the WWE title. We're just like, yes, this is great. Suddenly, you know, Cedric and Benjamin, they lose the tag titles. And then from there, the Hurt Business just magically dissolves one day. And then they tease, is it back? Is it not? What's going on? Well, it looks like not only is the Hurt Business dissolved, but it seems like Cedric Alexander and Shelton Benjamin are no longer a team. In fact, they were pitted against each other on this week's taping of Main Event, which confused a lot of fans who were present, and it certainly seems to spell the end of that. And Cedric Alexander gets the win in that match, which it's just like, why? Now, I don't know how many people are watching Main Event, but it certainly seems to be a thing where all things connected to the Hurt Business are now dissolved. They're all going on their merry way. And with Shelton Benjamin losing that match, I don't know really what this means for him. We all had big hopes for Cedric Alexander going all the way back to the Cruiserweight Classic when he first got signed. He's a former Cruiserweight champion. But ever since he was out of the Cruiserweight division, he never really got his footing. Of course, he was part of the tag team as tag team champions at one point, but that was short-lived. And so maybe this is a career launch potentially for Cedric Alexander. But yeah, this is the official end of the Hurt Business.
Yeah, it's like the excitement when Cedric appeared was amazing, right?
Yes.
And then this was around the time where Big Swole actually came on our show. And
Okay.
I don't know if you've seen her daughter, but her daughter at the time, and I'm pretty sure she still does, was like doing like power bombs off the couch.
Wow.
So the
Wow.
fact that the whole family is in wrestling,
Yeah.
I feel like, you know, WWE's missing the mark. But I'm always all for a good relationship thing.
For sure.
Not everybody's about that.
Yeah.
But I'm concerned because they weren't really doing much with him before the Hurt Business.
Right.
So I wonder if this is almost like a tactic and eventually, because I feel like in the new era, the Hurt Business would do really well, even if you just take out oh my god, if you take out Lashley and you still have MVP and everybody else. So I wonder if they're breaking them up for us to, you know, have like an I gotcha moment and then they come back together, because I honestly don't see Shelton or Cedric having a really good push even in the new era, unless you bring Cedric to NXT, which I think he might do well in.
Right, which he never really had a run in NXT. And so him being in NXT, I think, is not a bad idea. You know, I also, it actually took me back to a couple of weeks ago when SmackDown was here in Atlanta, where the dark match was Raquel Rodriguez and Shayna Baszler, which blew my mind. And then last week, those two end up ending the women's gauntlet to determine the number one contender. And Shayna Baszler, who lost the dark match, becomes the number one contender. So maybe this is one of those things, to your point, where it is, okay, let's try this out while really nobody's looking and do this to do kind of some sort of reboot or some sort of repackaging potentially, which I hope for. You know, I think both of them are great talents. Obviously, it's probably safe to say Shelton Benjamin is on the tail end of his career. And so what he chooses to do from here, who knows? Obviously, athletically, he can still go. But it's just a question of obviously what he wants to do at this point. But I do like that idea of Cedric heading to NXT, particularly if NXT ends up going back in the black and gold direction. I think he has a chance to really shine. I mean, can you imagine him fighting for the North American title? Like, ooh, him and Carmelo Hayes, like, yikes. That could be a real thing. So there's some possibility if he ends up in NXT, I think.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. I do think Triple H does have has some surprises up his sleeves, but I also feel like, and I can't even remember if I said this on Wednesday or I don't even know when I said this, but I feel like they're on the same lines of AEW, not as much as far as signing talent, but they have a bunch of talent that they haven't been using, and you know, it's only been 2 weeks. It's less than that for Triple H. So we're going to give him a moment to kind of gather everything. But, you know, I'm not a fan of, you know, people sitting just, you know, chilling at craft services. If some of them are happy doing that, then, you know, kudos. You know, there's always that one person that's like, look, I know I'm not talented. I'm just happy to be here.
And I'm flying under the radar.
Yeah, they're flying under the radar. So those people, I hope they still fly under the radar. But for the folks who like wanna, you know, they had bigger visions for their career. I hope that Triple H really does use them. And if not, there's plenty of other promotions, which there's actually one other story that I'd probably add, that, you know, one promotion canceling their stuff. There's plenty of other promotions that are doing stuff. And there are plenty of people that we've seen. And again, I'm not in their pocketbook, so I have no idea, but it looks like they're staying booked and busy, and, you know, money's not necessarily an issue if they're, you know, doing wisely.
So to your point, what I also think is interesting is I think sometimes we forget just how many outlets WWE potentially has. So we often think about Raw, SmackDown, NXT, but then there's also the NXT UK situation, which they have sent some NXT folks over there. Obviously the Level Up show, the Main Event show, there are some other spaces for people to be able to work their craft. So how they use that is going to be interesting to see. And again, where all of these people will fit in the puzzle is also interesting as well. So we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting with that too, because it's like, this was actually a piece of advice that Twitch gave me,
Yeah.
where it was one of those things where you have all these platforms or all these shows,
Mm-hmm.
but is everybody watching? And if not,
Right.
then maybe you should consolidate and
Mm-hmm.
then, do a rebrand. So, with
Sure.
main event, I'm really interested, and I'm sure WWE will never do this, but curious to see what the numbers are. I think we can see what the
Right.
numbers are for SmackDown, Raw, and anything
Right.
that's on, network television. But the
Mm-hmm.
other numbers, I'm interested to see what that looks like, because if that's
Yeah.
the case, like, yeah, I'm always for somebody getting a check.
Sure.
But if like we as wrestling fans don't have enough time to watch all this wrestling and have a life and pay these bills and
Right.
all this other stuff. Like, so,
Right.
if we do this for a living
Yeah.
and we
Yeah.
barely have enough time for one promotion, like,
Right.
so how is everybody else watching all this stuff? And everybody's
Right.
not watching like something like a main event, then
Right. And it's interesting to that point, because when you're talking about the numbers, I don't know that they certainly make the numbers for things on Peacock as readily available as they do, obviously, for the things that are on network television. But I suppose you can tell how things are going if shows start switching directions. Like, for instance, seeing 205 Live move from, being taped after SmackDown to finally being taped in the Performance Center, moving to Peacock, and then ultimately becoming Level Up. So I'm actually surprised that there's still a main event show happening, because shows like Main Event, Level Up sort of has a storyline, but really the object for both of these shows is just another outlet, not so much compelling television. And so
right.
it puts fans in a tough spot, because if you're trying to figure out what can I watch, what can't I watch, you just spend your time on the main things, because Main Event's just going to recap Raw anyway. So, it's that type of thing. But yeah, this is going to be interesting to watch.
And now we have to talk about Jade Cargill. What's up with her? What's going on? Making moves as per usual.
Absolutely. So Jade Cargill made a bit of history this week that I'm not sure, to be honest, that AEW intended to have happen. So here's what I mean by this. So Jade Cargill had a match, of course, with the newly signed Madison Rayne in her defense of the TBS championship. Jade Cargill wins, goes to 36-0, but in so doing becomes the first AEW champion to have 10 successful title defenses. Now, that's a really big deal when you think about that, considering all the champions that they've had, et cetera, that actually beat the record that was held by Darby Allin for his TNT title defenses, which was at 9. So Jade Cargill making massive history in AEW, though I'm not sure they're going to make a lot of noise about that for a number of reasons. But yeah, Jade Cargill now in the history books having the single most successful title defenses of any champion in AEW history.
It's crazy. So shout out to AEW. We do have a great relationship with them as far as interviews and stuff. But
Yes.
it is crazy how protected Jade is. She is as protected as, and if you guys are familiar with WoW, there's a character by the name of Beast. I think her name
Yes.
is Beast.
Yes.
She is as protected as Beast, as far as, like, I don't know if the mystique is, there's no interview, so you can't gauge what she's about or whatever. Which is a good thing for them. I'm not really appreciative of that, because I've been wanting to interview Jade before she was even signed to AEW.
Right.
So yeah. So do you? I feel like they would have known if this was the 10th. Like
part of me, it just reminds me of the Undertaker streak. Like the Undertaker literally went 10-0 in WrestleMania before somebody realized, hey, wait, did you realize that Taker's never lost at Mania? Now, it's hard to believe that they didn't realize that going on that long, but I'm not sure in all of the stats that they're keeping that they went, hey, did you know that she's going to make history tonight? because I feel like if they knew that, they would have hyped that fact up even more
Okay.
in that particular match than they did. Because of course they're continuing to hype her undefeated streak, which is
Mhm.
significant. But I think if we're honest, that streak of 10 successful title defenses is massive for a few reasons. Number one, it's a black woman, right?
Mhm.
Number two, she's a rookie. And so to be able to and I mean, she's amassed some pretty impressive wins over time. So to think that she successfully defended her title more than Omega, the Bucks, Punk, like name your champions. None of them, Moxley, Jericho, all of them. So this isn't just a women's thing. It is in the entire company. So it's a major moment for Jade Cargill. The question to me is whether or not AEW will talk about this. Now they're going to have a live Rampage tonight, so maybe they'll mention it. I don't know, but it's a major fact, and we've got to shout out the Queen for that.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I mean, Nikki's not in the chat because we know who the queen is, but
Right.
yeah.
Jade is still a
But
queen. I mean, you know.
true. It's funny too because for all the talks of us saying we need more women matches and all this other things, if I was in Tony Khan's position, I'd be like, and it's kind of almost the same thing as the Obama things. Like, oh, well, you guys have a black president, so now be quiet. But
Right.
on the flip side, it's just kind of like there was nothing happening like that before.
Right.
And, you know, you guys have been talking about it. And here's a woman. She also happens to be black.
Right.
She's done her accolades are more than people who've been in the industry for 10 plus years. So,
Absolutely.
you know, it might, if he plays it well, he could use it to buy him some more time to figure out or you know, hopefully he has or somebody Madison Rain is over there, so hopefully with the addition of her there would be some more women's matches, etc. So you know, definitely congratulations to her. Speaking of somebody who has been in the game for a long period of time, and I guess he's not going to be slowing down, your best friend, Ric Flair.
You know, I don't like to say we're prophetic on this show, but I think we're prophetic on this show, right? So I got to shout out Kane. Kane was the first one who started asking the question, how long will it be before Ric Flair gets back into a ring after Ric Flair's last match? Well, it didn't take long at all. It took basically 5 days before Flair was found in Puerto Rico having a significant battle with Carlos Colon. Now, later he acknowledged on his own podcast that, in fact, Puerto Rico offered him the opportunity to get in the ring. And he said, you know, if I do that, hey, I just had this last match. I'm not supposed to do it. Puerto Rico was like, hey, we don't care. Just do it anyway. And so now, of course, he has gone on. He has said on his podcast, he regrets saying that was his last match. And now he's hopped onto Twitter saying that that actually might not be his last match. He's gone on to talk about the fact that him passing out was actually the result of him being dehydrated because he was trying to get down to a specific weight to be able to wrestle. He wanted to be down to like 230 or something like that. So, yeah, so he's feeling like if everybody has been doing all this talk about him simply because he was dehydrated, clearly he could get back in the ring again. So here's an interesting fact that I just, when I thought about it, I was like, okay. So apparently, this was not Flair's first retirement match, as we well know. Okay, so of course there was the match for WrestleMania 24. But before that, there was a career versus career match that he had against Hogan at Halloween Havoc 94, where he was supposed to have retired when he lost that match. So there's that one. There's the Mania 24 match. And then there was a match that he had on the September 2011 episode of Impact against Sting for his career, where he lost. So we're now looking at 4 retirement matches that have happened. So why should we believe that this is it?
Right. And the great thing about wrestling, and I think I said this on Wednesday, it's not like any other sport. Like definitely I'm not saying wrestling is not a sport. So let's, don't come for me for that. But the great thing about wrestling is that it's imagination. I think John Cena, I think he reposted something from Bray Wyatt or something where he was talking about, how wrestling is imagination and given everything that we're going through. It was a really beautiful post.
Yeah.
But given the fact that it's not a sport where it hangs on how of great of a shape you are in or how old you are or whatever. I mean, given whoever your opponent is, if they can make it work with you, then they can make it work. And they're allowed, and he's literally a living legend who wants to go and who obviously doesn't care how you feel when you watched him in the ring.
Doesn't care.
And people and there are a huge amount of people that still want to see him go and will pay big money for it. Then why not?
Yeah, and that's what I was going to say, is that as long as there is a crowd who's willing to pay, I mean, promoters know that that'll draw a crowd, so they'll bring you in. And so I think Flair, I'm frightened. Flair will either, I think if Flair ends up with some debilitating injury, he will find a way to get back in the ring. JD, that's hilarious. But I wouldn't be surprised, And so part of me wonders now if wrestling fans now understand, okay, we've seen 4 retirement matches that he lost, that he said he's supposed to retire in. Do we now believe him anymore when he says it's his last match? Probably not.
Yeah, but this is the great thing about being an old person. Does it really matter? Like all there's kind of, we'll start with 2 types of old people. You have the ones who, they're just quiet because life just didn't, operate how they wanted, and they're just waiting. And then you have that other old person who, like, they say whatever is on their mind. They're gonna do what they want to do, and and they know, because they did such a great job, the people around them are going to cater to them.
Right.
Like it's one of those things, and I think Ric Flair is in that position where the people around him it's not just his daughter and grandkids or whatever. It's literally the wrestling community.
Yeah.
But minus a few other people, a few people like yourself that are like, no, it's time. But he says he wants to wrestle, and then the person who's wrestling him, he trusts him to keep him safe, because that's the key thing.
That is the key. I just know I wouldn't want his blood on my hands, literally. Like the idea when he passed out, nobody knew it was from dehydration. He wasn't moving. It was one of the scariest things I've ever seen. And I don't want to watch a man die in the ring. I have no interest in that at all. So if anybody thinks I hate Ric Flair, it's not. I was a massive Ric Flair fan, but I prefer to remember the Ric Flair that I can go watch on Peacock, who would go 60 minutes with Ricky Steamboat, was in great shape. I mean, 60 minutes 2 weeks ago? No way. Absolutely not. I mean, he barely made it through the 15-minute match that he had. So I just, for me, after that, it made it really hard to think about watching a Ric Flair match, because now you are absolutely a shell of your former self. So how much the insurance was, I'd love to know the answer to that. I don't know. It had to be massive.
There's definitely insurance for that. Yeah,
absolutely. But yeah, so I don't know. I think Flair will obviously go as long as he feels like there's an audience. I just had a very scary thought. Triple H, don't do it.
You think Triple H is going to bring him back?
I think Flair would petition to get back with Vince out. He loves Triple H. He knows their relationship. I think he would want to be on a big stage. Do you think this dude would try to show up for WrestleMania 39?
I don't think Triple H will do that. However, I do think that when Charlotte and Rick were together, it made for an interesting story, because we know, like it's Charlotte Flair. Like it's So, and we've seen it before.
Mhm.
The last JD's about to lose his mind.
Yeah.
The last time, I mean, the last storyline that they had wasn't that great, but
No.
I definitely don't think that WWE will take on that because it's
Yeah. It's
ensuring
too
it's
much
a
of a
big
liability.
company. It's way too much of a liability. However,
Yeah.
I think that Ric Flair would trade in his wrestling boots to be in a suit and walk on the WWE big stage. One, the checks are probably way better
Sure.
if you get on the storyline, which
Right.
I don't see him doing a one time. If he's gonna do a last hurrah, it'll be like a storyline, and those checks are, and I don't know the logistics of everything, but I'm assuming
Yeah.
that either his Legends contract has decreased significantly because he's making money other else places, or he's no longer, it's paused or something.
Yeah.
So, I don't know if it activates again. There's all these, there's stuff I learned in the last 24 hours about wrestling and contracts that I had no idea. So there's,
Mm-hmm.
so we don't know. I definitely
Yeah.
don't think he'll be wrestling in
I hope not.
WWE, but I think there's definitely a possibility of a storyline when Charlotte Flair comes back.
I
Maybe
could see that.
leading up to Hollywood, the next
Okay.
WrestleMania.
Yeah.
That would make it quite interesting because,
It would.
again, for everything, given his age and the last hurrah or whatever, there are still, I would say, I don't know about kids 15 and under, but probably 20 and over, there are people still like quoting him. They know who he is. They like
Sure.
all that stuff. So it's just kind of like it would be a draw.
Yeah.
So I think that's possible. How that would look, I have no idea. I
I
usually have good ideas as far as storylines, but I have no idea how that would look.
I'm okay with a mic in his hand. I'm okay with him standing beside somebody. I just don't want him getting into a wrestling ring. For all of our safety, because the trauma that we would have to endure to watch
Right.
this man carried out and them trying to resuscitate. Like, do you remember when Jerry the King Lawler had his episode on TV and he was commentating and all of a sudden commentary went blank? And then
Yes.
Michael Cole comes back and he's like, guys, this is not a storyline. Please pray for Jerry Lawler.
Mhm.
And
I
I
think that was
mean,
the Dark Side of the Ring or something. I saw
well,
that.
it was
something
on
about
Monday.
the story.
I remember it was on Monday Night Raw when it happened.
Yeah.
And it was just, and they did somebody did something on it to talk
Yeah.
about how he literally died, and it's just like the trauma that I felt that night, like, Lord, please don't let Lawler leave here like this. Like, I
Right.
can't deal with that kind of trauma with a man in the ring, and Flair would not care. Like, Flair would
Right.
be
You
like,
don't care about your feelings.
no, he'd be like, I'm dead. I'm like, what? So I just, as a fan, I couldn't handle that.
Although I was watching Daily Show today, and apparently there's a new study where they've brought pigs back to life. So maybe he knows something we don't know, where he's willing to risk it.
He
And
would
there's some
be the
scientists
one.
waiting in the background, like, look, we got you.
He would be the one. They'd do a whole tribute show to him, and then he'd come back, and
Out the casket. That's the storyline. That's the storyline.
That would, oh Lord, yeah.
Oh goodness. Well, I mean, Ric Flair has kept his name all this time, and he definitely has some brand awareness. But somebody who it's really interesting with this story, somebody who I've had a problem with because, and we talked about this either Monday or Wednesday, where we hope that, we don't mind the changing in the beginning, but that jump from NXT to the main roster, NXT UK to the main roster, and the name change and making no, talk of who the person was before is just annoying. So It's interesting with Piper, aka Dewdrop. She's like, I don't really care either way. So it's like, well, if she don't care, then I'm not gonna mention it anymore.
Yeah, well, she says she doesn't care, but she's also very willing to talk to Triple H about a change. And she knows he would be open for it. And so, for all of the things that we've been hearing about with Triple H and the new regime and what those changes could mean, this is one person that could definitely impact. He certainly signed her to NXT UK. And so there's a bit of a relationship there. And we've seen how several people who have had good relationships with Triple H have already started to see some changes happening. Ciampa, Kevin Owens, some really good opportunities. And so Doudrop could be next. She talked about in an interview how, it took her a while to figure out who Doudrop was. And so when she figured that out, then they turned Doudrop heel. And so she's like, who's heel Doudrop? And so she's kind of been in this weird space and is hoping that if indeed there is potentially a name change, perhaps back to Piper Niven, that it would give her a new opportunity on TV to really showcase who she is and what she's doing. Now, of course, she's a part of the women's tag team tournament, teaming with Nikki Ash, the former Nikki Cross. And there really could be some amazing things that happen with that should she get to undergo a name change, perhaps.
Yeah, even Nikki Cross. Her by herself. We'll just see. Like I don't even know what to. There's so many people in that era. I think, except for Bianca and Shayna, and we've seen the trajectory of their two careers separately. Right. And Amber Moon, but she's no longer with WWE. Although, well, is she officially signed to AEW?
She is.
So
as Athena.
Yeah. So it's just kind of like we'll see.
We will see, because to your earlier point, I'm sure there are a lot of people in line talking to Triple H about, hey, remember me? So I don't know how many of them will get, the rub, the spot, the type of thing that they're looking for. But if there's any indicator for Kevin Owens and Ciampa, which, by the way, they actually used his whole name on NXT Tuesday night, which made me go, wow. So who knows? People are getting their names back. They're getting more time on TV. There could be something in the works for Doudrop. Let's hope so.
Yeah, and the thing too with that is, I don't know. That's a lot for. Like, I almost feel like it's a lot more. This new phase is a lot more pressure than Tony Khan has. Tony Khan, like he's been doing it. He pretty much does what he wants. I'm sure he listens to some people, but there's certain things that we've all been calling for. But for Triple H, because some of these people, he's helped create their character and their career. And then, he didn't have as much creative when they went to the main roster. It's like, how much can he do? So I wonder if the separation between emotion and, the business, how he's going to handle that.
Well, he's always talked about doing what was best for business. And I think with that, I think he's got his head on straight there. What he also understands is, we're not going to come in and in 3 weeks paint the walls a new color and call this SmackDown 2.0, right? Like he understands gradual change and the need for that. So I think this is interesting. I actually think that Triple H and Tony Khan have two different kinds of problems here. I think the Triple H issue is trying to right the wrongs of Vince McMahon, and in the process, still honor some of the things that are actually in the middle of happening. I thought it was interesting, and I still don't know the skinny behind this, why we did not see or hear a mention of the Money in the Bank winner this week, which we had been seeing Theory on our televisions ad nauseum prior to SummerSlam. No Theory this week, though Theory did show up on the launch party, which is interesting, and we'll get to that at some point. But I just think things are getting very interesting on the AEW side, and this is where I think it's two different problems. Everything we're hearing on the WWE side says that backstage is excited. People are excited about possibilities, opportunities. You don't hear that level of excitement happening in AEW. The idea that Tony Khan's behavior is driving people out of there, and the idea that, people are unhappy and things like that. It's something that we're not accustomed to seeing from AEW. So it's a new kind of problem for Tony Khan to be able to handle. And I'm not sure if his personality is good with handling that kind of confrontation as of yet. Triple H has had a lot more experience across the board with that type of thing. So I think it's going to be two different kinds of problems. And I think the experience of Triple H will certainly help him as he's dealing with something much, much larger than NXT.
Yeah. And then speaking of somebody who had 1% of the experience of Triple H, but has been doing a lot. I didn't even realize we had her on the show, I think maybe 2 years ago. I didn't realize she's only 20 years old.
That part
makes me feel like I haven't done enough in my life. Like,
you know, when I saw this article, I literally went, wait, she's what? You know, so Roxanne Perez, formerly known as Roxy, has done an awful lot to only be 20. She's a former Ring of Honor Women's World Champion. Once they went on hiatus, she competed for MLW and then for Impact, signed with WWE in March, has already done some significant things in NXT, including winning the first ever women's breakout tournament, becoming one half of the women's tag team champions. She's done quite a bit, and she is still saying that she feels like all of this is surreal, which I totally get. And she's shocked to have done so much, but what she's done by age 20 is really, really significant. And it's clear the rocket ship is on Roxanne Perez in NXT.
This is very, very true. And I think, I mean, we have seen a few other people come from Booker T school to go to NXT, but this rise, she was so humble when she was on the show too. This rise has been epic, and I can't speak to her, like, how are her mic skills? Not questioning it, but you know, all of that makes a big deal. So
it makes a big deal. And I think, you know, having her right now in this program with Cora Jade has, strangely enough, elevated Cora Jade in a way that I don't think most were anticipating. They were trying to put the rocket ship on her. It was very clear since the start of 2.0 when they had her do that big spot at the War Games that they had, and they were doing all of these things. But it took a Roxanne Perez to come in and really now give us a reason to go, oh, wait, Cora Jade, holy cow. You know, bringing something out of Cora, and now we're seeing a bit of an edge and aggressive side to Roxanne Perez as well, which is leading to their match at Heatwave next week. So I think this is all super interesting. And again, another one of these spaces where we can look at NXT 2.0 starting to, and I'm careful with saying creating a star, since, you know, Roxanne was obviously a world champion before she got here, but she's all of 20. So it's safe to say that she, you know, NXT is having a hand in really boosting and elevating her career as well.
I kind of see her as like the spunkiness, and y'all don't come for me, but like an AJ.
Sure.
Like just and the fact that she is 20, and she's had, you know, a great indie career, barring that anything crazy doesn't happen. Like, I feel like this is like WWE for life, especially with Triple H at the helm. It's just really interesting to see, like, you know, the differences. Like I said, we've seen a lot of people come out of Booker T school, but this iteration, like Roxanne, is, you know, it makes sense. And the fact that, you know, she's not the stereotypical what we've seen before. She's minority, like, you know what I'm saying? She's not Charlotte Flair. She's not blonde, she's not tall, she doesn't have these, you know, big boobs, and no offense to Charlotte Flair, but that era, but, you know, the era that she came in, that's, you know, if you weren't that, then you weren't wrestling. So now to see something like, to see Roxanne Perez, it's an amazing thing to see. And I'm so, like, interested to see what's going to happen in the next 10 years, you know, knock on wood, no injuries. That's an amazing career to start off with. You know,
it is.
Look at Aaliyah. Aaliyah's been in NXT for 7+ years, and she finally got to the main roster,
and is still kind of like, you know,
when's the last time we've seen Aaliyah? So
I mean, when we've seen her, it hasn't really been anything of major consequence. So, yeah, I think we do see something special here with Roxanne. And again, with her being 20, she has a huge opportunity to have more time under her belt with WWE than anywhere else, to the point where I think people will ultimately remember her more for her time in WWE than as former Ring of Honor World Champion.
Yeah, that definitely will fade away in like 5 years.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Speaking of something more, I mean, we've been talking about that where, less than a year away, but it's still, we have like a few major holidays to go before we even get to this. But unfortunately, I didn't get to make it, but they launched WrestleMania in Hollywood yesterday. And it's interesting now that I look at this picture. You know what I'm about to say, right?
Go for it.
Now that I look at this picture, because we've seen Snoop before in and around WWE, but he's also known for being Sasha Banks' cousin.
Yes.
And not to say, oh, because you're family, you have to say something, but
sure.
This is interesting. Again, we're not going to go down that rabbit hole. But they had the launch yesterday, and it's coming up. It's in and around.
There's a lot of interesting things about this to me. First and foremost, they streamed this launch party on their YouTube channel last night, which I believe is the first time that they've actually streamed the party. They've had those parties before, but they've never gone live with it. So there's that. Then they were literally pulling stars from everywhere. You had JoJo Siwa on, and you had, of course,
Fluffy
Snoop
was on.
Fluffy, like you had all of these folks that were showing up that were a part of it. They actually had a couple of matches there as well. Theory was involved in a match against Ricochet. Raquel Gonzalez competed. They had just a lot of things going on. But what really stuck out to me was normally WrestleMania tickets go on sale. Excuse me. I felt that coming. I was trying to miss that. WrestleMania tickets usually go on sale in November. It's been that way for a few years. I find it very odd that the tickets for this one are on sale early August. So it says a couple of things to me. First and foremost, they've done 4 stadium shows this year. None of them have sold out. Royal Rumble in St. Louis was not a sellout. WrestleMania in Dallas both nights was not a sellout. Money in the Bank had to be moved from Allegiant Stadium to MGM Grand because they weren't selling enough tickets. And then SummerSlam just a couple of weeks ago basically was half full. You had 44,000 fans in a stadium that seats 70,000 without counting floor seats. So they could have easily done 80,000 if that had sold out for SummerSlam in Nashville. So all of this is very interesting to my mathematical mind. And so what I'm thinking is they want to be able to ensure that they're going to actually sell out these 2 nights in SoFi. If they don't and they need to relocate, it still gives them time to do it.
Ooh,
but
you think that's what would happen though?
It's not the first time. I mean, you can go back to WrestleMania 7 when it was supposed to be in the LA Memorial Coliseum. They were supposed to get 100,000 people in there. Now, a few things happened as to why that did not happen. So they ended up moving it into the LA Sports Arena. So it wouldn't be the first time that they've done it. Now, I think they've also given us this much lead time because if they need to give people more information and more reason to get in there, they're going to do it. I don't think they wanted a chance from November to April. So they've tacked on 4 more months to do it. I think there are a few other factors in here that are going to really help this WrestleMania. Number 1, obviously, it's in LA. Number 2, there's obviously the rumor of Rock and Roman. That should do it. But the other piece of it is with Triple H at the helm. That changes a lot. I think we're looking at a much different WWE. This will be the first WrestleMania ever without Vince McMahon. That's still a lot to process, right? I think Triple H understands the assignment. He knows it's not going to be enough to have that massive stadium half full for 2 nights. No, we need to give you a reason why you need to come night 1 and night 2. We need to make it so irresistible where you're going to shell out $1,800 to be there for both nights. They're going to. I looked at tickets last night. Just
tickets are insane.
They're unbelievable.
Nosebleed is $150.
Yeah, I mean, like it. And maybe at some point we'll talk about, you know, the money in WrestleMania, and if WrestleMania has gotten to a point where it's not really accessible for the average fan, because you really, I mean, I remember, you know, going to WrestleMania several years back, and, you know, I didn't mind paying the money that I paid, but I was going to be first 5 rows. Nowadays, that money is going to get you somewhere in the bleachers. So it's just kind of like, is WrestleMania accessible? But the thing is, when you start making money and you keep making more money, you're not going to stop trying to make money. So I'm very intrigued to see if we're getting to a point where, obviously, you're talking about LA, which is a more expensive city than several of the other cities that, I mean, think about it. Mania the year after will be in Philly. That's a far different cry than LA. So if you're talking about people traveling, you're talking about airfare, renting a car, hotel, food. You're going to pay a pretty penny for WrestleMania. And then you're going to do it for 2 days. And you're probably going to do some of the other ancillary events as well. It is something. Now, I'm not saying it's not worth it. I'm saying that now WWE is going to figure out which fan do I need to appeal to that will be able and willing to part from that kind of money to be in a space that could have 100,000 people. Right.
And shout out to JD. Thank you, JD, for your comments, for rocking with us. I don't know, like Nosebleed. Yeah, that's it, and the traffic. Yeah, there are a couple of things. One, every show that I've been to in Los Angeles, the right around the ring, they always put for celebrities.
Right.
And, you know, we were just talking about this off air. When you reach a certain level, you know, A-lister to a Z-lister, you know, the likelihood of you dropping $2,000, unless you're a super fan,
right,
is highly unlikely. So I don't know if they're accounting for those prices to accommodate, because the amount of celebrities that you see in LA that come out for LA is insane. You know, they come, they walk through, they wave because everybody recognizes them. They sit down for all of 10 minutes and then they're gone. Right. So there's that. The parking. When I went to the AEW show, this was at the Forum.
The Forum, that's right.
The Forum? It was.
Yeah, it was.
Forum. And I'm pretty sure the parking is going to be even more insane. The parking at the Forum was $45.
Wow.
That was right by the stadium. And then if you park a little bit further away and you walk, it's probably about 25. So you're talking about parking as well. And the likelihood of you going by yourself is highly unlikely. So now it's almost like, $2,000 for that is insane. However, I feel like either they know something we don't know as far as demographics. There is a marketing team, or they know who, where their fans lie. Like, for instance, for my skincare company, I know kind of the demographics of, okay, what people are willing to spend, who are these people, etc. So maybe they know something we don't, but and I know a lot of people who will pay $150 to just be in the nosebleed section.
Sure. So I will say this. I'm looking at Ticketmaster now, and so it's not $150. I do want to be clear. The nosebleeds at the very top.
I wasn't looking at that.
Yeah, I'm at the very top. They're at $50.
Yeah, I didn't even look there. I started where you can actually see, because you're just looking at the screen. By the
Right,
time
right,
you get
right.
to nosebleed, you're literally just looking at the jumbotron. You
Literally,
can't see
which I'm
anything.
not sure why one wants to go do that, but that is an option. So yeah, tickets are interesting to say the least. But yeah, $50 is what I'm seeing for some of these. Now, when you start getting to floor seats, I'm looking at platinum seats right now for row 3 on the this is interesting. Row 3, which is somewhat ringside in section P, is going for $3,100. Yeah, 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 yeah. And then there are, and these are not the resales. Let me be clear. These are not the
So essentially,
resales.
you're making who was it? Oh, this is in Canada. So essentially, you're making, if you buy 2 tickets, you're paying a little bit over a mortgage for 2 houses.
Absolutely.
Mortgage
And
payment.
and mind you, that is, and there's another ticket that I'm looking at, again, a floor section that's $2,000. And that's one night. That's one
Yeah.
night,
JD says, I live in LA. It's in my backyard. I didn't know you live
Yeah.
in LA, JD, but it's in my backyard, but I'm having a hard time convincing myself it's worth it.
Yeah.
It's and the good thing too about WrestleMania is that, and I know a lot of people did this in Nashville, is that they didn't even go to WrestleMania. All
Sure.
the other wrestling events that were
Sure.
happening, which I'm pretty sure it's going to happen. I'm sure Mission
Oh,
Pro is
yeah.
going to have something.
Of course.
Hopefully Battle Slam comes out. That will be awesome
That
on a
would be
Friday
amazing.
before.
I would love that.
So in and around WrestleMania,
Yeah.
I'm 90% sure that week is just going to be insane.
Yeah.
So yeah, $50
I would never
to
tell
watch a
anybody
Jumbotron.
and that's the thing. So I remember, I think the last super big show I went to was Royal Rumble in San Antonio about 5 years ago. And we had floor seats, but they were towards the back. And I just remembered thinking to myself that night, like, we had fun. But if I'm going to sit on the floor, it's going to need to be in the first 5 rows so I can actually see, and I'm not really having to look over people's heads and things like that. Other than that, if I'm not in a fairly decent section, it's better for me to just watch at home,
Right.
Now I get it, being in the place is important, and it is, there's a bit of history to that, but yeah, I think everybody's going to have to make that decision. But you're right, TK. The cool thing about it is there are so many other things that are going on that weekend that there are enough other events that you'll actually really enjoy the experience if you choose to go. So
Right.
again, you've got time
And that's
to
what I'm
figure it out.
excited about too.
Yeah.
It's going to be
floor,
insane.
It is going to be insane. The floor plan, as of right now, has about I'd say 70% blocked off for seats. So I'm sure they're going to use the rest for production, which I understand. I think this still should end up being something that is a spectacle for sure. They're going to make it look amazing. And I think SoFi obviously is an amazing stadium in and of itself. So all of those things combined, it's going to be special. They're going to shell out money. It's going to be big. Right. Yeah, I'm just very intrigued to see who are going to be the people who are willing to shell that out and say, yeah, I'm at Mania and I paid $5,000 to sit front row.
Yeah, I'd almost rather do, if we don't get media passes, I'd almost rather do a watch party. Like at a bar somewhere like Jobber Tears does in New York. So shout out to Jobber Tears, because I think they're having a watch party this weekend coming up, or next weekend coming up. Or not a watch party. I think they're having a Jobber Slam or something.
That's right. Dope.
But yeah, I would rather do that. Because you go to a watch party, you pay the entrance fee, you pay for some food. That's $150. Because another thing, I haven't been to the stadium yet, but I'm willing to, because in most stadiums they don't treat nosebleeds. They treat nosebleeds like nosebleeds. So the seats are really tight. It's very cramped. The angles. I mean, you have a great angle, the jumbotron. But
Right.
you know, again, if you want to take pictures, the person looks like, you know, a pea. You can't really make
Right.
them out.
Right.
So yeah, it's all of that. But with
Yeah.
that all being said, you know, if you want to
It's
go,
it's still
I know people who
WrestleMania.
enjoy it. Yeah, it's still
Hmm.
WrestleMania. You could say
Hmm.
that you were there.
Right.
And I know people who enjoy nosebleed. I don't know
Yeah.
what they enjoy about it, but more power to you. And if you are going to get those nosebleed tickets or those tickets from 150 and up, or if you know you don't mind paying a couple hundred, I would
Mhm.
definitely suggest getting them now, because once they
Yes.
hey Shadow Ranger, once they start getting that resale,
Oh yeah. It's gonna get ugly.
it's you're looking, you know, those 5,000 ticket $5,000 tickets are gonna go even higher, and those
Now,
150 is gonna be now 350.
Now, one of the cool things that WWE does, and I believe they're still doing it, is they have these travel packages where you are able to pay one price. You get your tickets to Mania both nights. You can
Mm-hmm.
also choose to get tickets to the SmackDown and Raw after and before, and other ancillary events. It covers your hotel as well. So one price for that. I think that's their new like on location thing that they're doing now. So you can look that
Shoot,
up
what the price is
because
that? That has to be at least a
well
little smidge under 10 grand.
it just depends because they have multiple packages. And
Mm-hmm.
so the multiple packages, they do have the ones that are for front row and that side, but they have it up to like the 100 section, which is just like the first bleacher. So they're going to be premium seats. And the
Mm-hmm.
secret is they fill those seats first
Mm.
before the seats that end up on sale on Ticketmaster. So if you want to
Okay.
get premium seats in whatever sections those are, that's a great way to go. And I will say this: I've done it both ways. I've done the package, and I've done trying to buy separately, and it does actually end up turning out better getting the package versus trying to buy all of this stuff separately, particularly if you're going to try to stay in the caliber of hotel they put you in and all that jazz, you know. So that's completely up to you again, totally.
Whew.
But yeah, it's something to look at, and you have enough time. So you know, if you want to start planning, obviously, you know, start taking a look at that. You can check out www.com and all those jazzes for that. But yeah, it's
Yeah.
official. WrestleMania tickets are on sale, as are the packages, and hopefully you'll make it to WrestleMania.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited. I just don't know I don't want to know what to expect, because I'm definitely
Yeah.
not paying
We'll be there in
$3,000.
some capacity. I'll just say that.
Yes,
We
there
will
will be
be
some
there.
capacity. And if I have to do a watch party somewhere, I might. And I really don't like organizing, so maybe I'll get somebody else to do that.
Yeah,
Um,
you just show up.
just show up.
Yeah.
Just an FYI, folks. Just throwing in this last story before we get out of here. MLW has canceled their August 27th Fury Road TV taping, and it'll now be a house show. So if you were looking forward to that, you just make your way to the house show, which is going to be in El Paso, Texas. So just an FYI.
Interesting.
According to this article, which is on yardbarker.com,
Mhm.
they haven't really given a real reason to why it's doing that. But I also saw another article where it was like there's going to be a forbidden door with MLW and somebody else. So
Oh, wait, what's the date of that again? August 27th?
27th.
Okay. No, I
I think it
understand
looks like
why.
NWA.
NWA. There is a middleweight title match from MLW happening on the NWA 74 pay-per-view. That's the same day. That's why that
Mm-hmm.
is. I saw the graphic for that because I believe Davey Richards is defending the championship, and I kind of had to do a double take. Like, am I really seeing this? But yeah, it
Yeah.
is happening in the NWA. In fact,
Yeah,
I'll
it looks
tell you.
like Davey Richards versus Thrill Billy
That's
Silas.
right. That's right. That's happening on night 2, August the 28th, because
Mm-hmm.
NWA 74, oddly enough, is doing a 2-day event. I guess that's the new thing now. The 27th and the 28th, and the MLW Open Weight Championship is happening in that particular match. So it is kind of their forbidden door of sorts for the NWA, which I think is interesting. I think that's interesting.
The card looks actually pretty good, and we could definitely talk about it on Monday when it gets closer to that date. But just want to let folks know if they were making plans, if they didn't know, that's what's going down. But that marks the end of, I don't even know what week this is, of WWT Live. Just, it is what it is. However, I know we just made some changes this week. Next week will be a little bit funny. So I'll let y'all know. And then hopefully we'll get on, get it moving, leading into the fall. Hopefully it won't be funny and everything will be, as it is, but it might be funny. We'll see. With that being said, where can everybody find you?
You can find me at Bonnerfied, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Of course, you can check me out on the podcast as The Faction Show, at The Faction Show in all those spaces, Spotify, Apple, all cool places. Also, Southern Honor Wrestling. We just had a big show last Friday. That'll end up on IWTV very soon. Look for Battle Slam information coming to Fight TV very soon, where you'll see Little Scrappy against Baron Black. And then this Sunday, I'm part of a brand new promotion called Championship District Wrestling. We'll be doing commentary for that, and you'll actually be able to stream that live on their YouTube page. So you go to youtube.com, look for Championship District Wrestling. Should be interesting. I don't know if Rick Ross is going to show up, but he might. So, that'd be quite interesting. Ernest the Cat Miller will be there. QT Marshall. A few other folks. The Workhorsemen will be there. Anthony Agogo. It's going to be a really, really big show. So make sure you guys are checking it out. That's this Sunday. Pre-show starts at 3 p.m. Eastern. Full show starts at 4 p.m. and it'll be on YouTube. That's where it'll be, on YouTube. So check it all out. And as always, TK, thank you for this amazing opportunity with WWT Live.
No problem. Booked and busy. That's what it is. Shout to Chad, JD, Maj, everybody in the chat who was doing their comments. We really appreciate y'all. Definitely go and check out www.talkpod.com, our website. We have a lot of articles there. Shout out to the editor-in-chief, Santana. We have articles dropping every single day, so definitely check that out. I believe also Impact is having a pay-per-view tonight. So if you want to recap on that and you can't watch it, check out Nikki Buji's article. She'll be dropping that later today. Check out all our social media, WW Talk Pod. Definitely go check out our TikTok. We have a lot of stuff going on there, WW Talk. You can find me on everything at TK Trinidad. Other than that, thank you guys for watching Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet. Ciao, y'all.
Women's Wrestling Talk, the #1 women's wrestling show on the planet.